Hey y'all, just checking in with a quick reading update. Really? Hey y'all, just checking in with a... Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Just another struggling writer. The beleaguered author's one-stop shop for commiseration and hopefully inspiration. My name is Carrie Scher, and I am just another struggling writer. Well, today is the start of another reading vlog, the first reading vlog of September, and I have some great books picked out. If you watched my last reading vlog, you know that I wrapped up A River Enchanted, which was my final random TBR draw of the month, and I decided to hold off on drawing a new one until the new month rolled over. I have since picked that next book, and it is Dreadful by Caitlin Rosakis. Dreadful is about a young man who awakes in the laboratory of an evil wizard with no memory, only to soon discover that he is the evil wizard in question. However, whatever it caused his memory loss, he has found that he doesn't really want to live the life of an evil wizard now and must figure out a way out of his current circumstances. I've only read the first 20 pages of this, but so far it's pretty charming, and I'm looking forward to reading the rest of this book this week. So that is my random TBR read for the month. What about my library reads? Again, if you watched my earlier reading vlogs from last month, you know that I've worked out a system where I read one physical book and one ebook, preferably from the library, every single week. And that really worked for me last month. I was able to finish 8 books. Since I have a reading goal of 10 books this month, I'm going to keep up with that trend. To that end, the library ebook I have selected for this week is What the River Knows by Isabella Banez. This is a YA fantasy described as The Mummy meets Death on the Nile, and those comps sold me right away. Even though I just read a YA, I have been wanting to read this book for a while. I did try it earlier this year, but I wasn't feeling super drawn to it and needed to get to other books, so I decided to set it aside for the moment and come back to it, and now is the right time. I've already read the first 6 chapters, and so far I don't really have a strong opinion, other than I kind of like the way that the author is introducing realistic obstacles to our main teenage character. A lot of times in YA, you find that the main characters really don't run into as many problems as they should on the way to their goal. And so far in the first 20%, our main character is hitting pretty much every roadblock imaginable. And yes, it is so frustrating for her and for the reader. But I appreciate that it's realistic. She would run into people treating her as a child because she is. She would be sent home repeatedly. She would be discounted. Her opinions would not matter to the adults in her life, despite her very emotional journey and quest. So while it really grinds my gears to see her treated so badly, I acknowledge that it's realistic. And kudos to the author for that. Apart from that, I don't really have much to say. The plot hasn't quite kicked off yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing where this book goes. Like I said, those comps are chef's kiss. My goal is to finish this one pretty fast, hopefully by Wednesday. And if I do, the next library ebook I will be picking up is Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. From what I know of this book, this is a very light fantasy Regency romance. I really enjoyed the first couple entries of the Starial series, which kind of has a similar vein. It's very light on the magic, very light on the fantasy, and very heavy on the romance. And I found those books to be exactly what I needed at the time, and I'm hoping I find something similar in Half a Soul. So those are the 3 books I'm going to be tackling this week. For now, I'm going to get in bed and read a little bit more of Dreadful, and I will let you tomorrow what my thoughts are. Hey y'all, just checking in with a quick reading update. I'm pleased to say that I've made progress in both books that I am reading this week. First up, Dreadful by Caitlin Rosakis. I have made it to about the 25% mark, and first off, I'm just going to say that cozy fantasy is one of those subgenres that I have realized this year just isn't for me. I do prefer higher stakes and less whimsical tones in my fantasy books. No one is more disappointed to learn this than me, because I really, really, really wanted to like this subgenre. And I learned after trying a couple that they're just not to my taste. So I don't know that this book is ever going to really nail it for me. But that being said, I'm not mad at it. We are following this man named Gav, as he likes to be called now, as he is trying to navigate having lost all of his memories of his previous life as a dark wizard. And he's learning all about his associates that he has and the evil plans that he is part of. And he's trying to decide whether he wants to try and get his memories back and carry on that life, or forge a new path for himself without getting himself killed by his dark associates. So very whimsical, just very goofy, silly, fun time. Like I said, it's never going to be a page turner for me. It's never going to be something that I rate 5 stars and rave about all the time, but it's cute. But I am pleased to say that what I am really enjoying is What the River Knows by Isabel Ibanez. And in this book, we are following a young woman named Inez, whose life in Argentina is upended when she learns that her parents have died on an expedition in Egypt. And she makes it her mission to find out what happened to them. And on that journey, she has faced numerous obstacles. And what has compelled me the most about this story is how often she fails. She is outwardly denied the information she is looking for. She is turned away. She is thwarted. She is frustrated. She is kept in the dark, and she fails repeatedly at achieving her goal. And yet she has a certain tenacity about her that isn't obnoxious, if that makes sense. It is definitely a defining character trait, but it isn't something that is told to us. This is a great example of the author showing it to us. No matter how many times she's knocked down, she continues to fight for answers and for her parents. Despite the fact that her parents have perennially disappointed her. They live half the year in Egypt and spend only 6 months a year with her, and while forbidding her from joining them in Egypt. And so she is dealing with this profound longing for her parents, longing for answers, longing to know them as these other strangers do, and also coping with not just their loss, but knowing that they didn't want to be with her all the time. And they denied her this part of themselves. And I find that interplay really compelling. And like I said, just the fact that this is a YA book where the teenage protagonist isn't just handed everything so easily, and that she actually is facing real obstacles that she would really have to face, such as money-grubbing uncles who deny her at every turn from learning anything about her parents, and men in power taking advantage of her and using their power to thwart her and to steal from her and to make her feel like a silly little girl. Inez is not the brightest. She's not the most clever. She's not the most effective. She's not a schemer. She doesn't have the skills to survive on an expedition in Egypt. But what she does have is this drive to not let the mystery of her parents' deaths die with them, and seek justice and answers for herself, because no one else will care. No one else cares about what happens to her parents, and really, truthfully, no one really cares about what it's doing to Inez herself except for her. And so that aspect of this I have found to be really compelling. So I have just finished part 2, which is just under 50%. And while I must say that the mystery hasn't really kicked off hardly at all, it's been very, very slow to develop. That character-driven engine that is leading me through the story is what is carrying me through. And it's like a great contrast to A River Enchanted, which I just read last week and didn't like as much because I didn't have that deep, compelling character-driven narrative. And so this is just a great juxtaposition of what I like in a book. I like being this connected to a point of view character. No idea if I'll finish it tomorrow. I just have just over 200 pages left, which might be just a little bit outside the realm of possibility on a work day, but I wouldn't be surprised either if I came home after all my obligations and laid in bed and finished it. We'll just have to see. So that is my quick reading update. I am enjoying both of these books to varying degrees, and I will let you know tomorrow when I've made some more progress. Hey y'all, just checking in with a quick reading update. I have been very bad about doing these updates this week. To be honest with you, I just haven't been feeling up to recording a whole lot. Wednesday, I didn't get a lot of reading done, so I didn't update. And then Thursday, I did get a lot of reading done, but I was just so busy in the evening that I didn't have time to update. And then Friday is always a black hole of productivity. But I do have some updates for you. First, yesterday I did in fact finish What the River Knows by Isabella Banez. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I am surprised by how much I liked this. And I'm surprised because I picked this up for the comps. And let me be clear, this book is nothing like the comps. This was described as The Mummy meets Death on the Nile, and it is neither an adventure story with mummies or supernatural, nor is it a detective murder mystery. It takes place in Egypt, and there is a little bit of a treasure hunt going on in the background, but really this book is about a young woman who has been left behind in almost every sense of the word, physically left behind by her parents who fell in love with Egypt but expressly forbade her from ever coming with them. And so they lived half the year there and were always talking about it and obviously missing it when they were with her in their time in Argentina. And she always felt secondary to that pull that they had, that Egypt had over her parents. And when they leave her behind, she is left in the care of her aunt who, she's very much not a surrogate daughter. She's just the niece. And she has certain expectations. And despite this, she idealizes her parents and loves them very much and wants to be with them and thinks of Egypt as a place that she also wants to go and be with them as a family. So when the news arrives that they mysteriously passed away overseas, she does what I think anyone would do and gets on a ship and goes over there to find out what's going on. And what I think I liked the most about this book was that the obstacles she faced were not supernatural. They were not unrealistic. They were not gun battles or hidden treasures. The obstacle she faced was what any young woman would face in that time period. It was people not taking her seriously, people not treating her with any sort of respect or dignity or love and attention. It's people who are dismissing her outright, are disregarding her completely. Even her guardian, her uncle, who she's only ever met once, but, is maintaining a relationship so he can have access to her fortune as her guardian. She's facing a person who outright robs her and then uses his position to basically discredit her from getting back what was stolen from her. She's facing expectations and the limitations that were on women at this time period. And it's so frustrating. It is so frustrating as a reader to see her stymied and utterly belittled and talked over and disregarded and set aside, and nothing she wants matters to anyone else but her. And she is constantly fighting against that. But I appreciate that the author took that route and let us see what it would really have been like for someone trying to find justice for her parents that she on some level didn't even feel loved her, parents who she barely even knew because they were absent for half her life. So I really did enjoy that. As frustrating as it was as a reader to see our protagonist, our main character, our POV character so belittled like that, I appreciated it as part of the story. However, once she got what she wanted, which was to accompany her uncle on this trip to, he has his own goals, but what she really wants is to find out more what happened to her parents and about this ring that her father sent her right before he died. When she finally fights her way onto this expedition after all of these setbacks and all of, like I said, this belittling and neglect and disregard, unfortunately she does become kind of passive. And so the last half of the book was not as enjoyable for me because she's not fighting anymore. She's not actively pursuing a goal. She is just reacting to what her uncle is asking of her, what revelations are cropping up. She's no longer an active character in her own story. So I did find that a little bit frustrating. Another thing I did like was the male main character / quasi love interest. I liked that he wasn't a good book boyfriend, if that makes sense. He's always lying by omission and sometimes outright lying to her. He's one of those people who isn't taking her seriously, at least in the beginning. He's overriding her wishes. He's, again, disregarding her in many ways, looking down on her in many ways. And again, that goes back to this being like a realistic story. It's not going to be love at first sight. It's not going to be someone who's completely devoted to her when she has no one else. It's going to be someone who she is somewhat antagonistic with, who is working with her uncle to deny her what she wants most, while also seeing her humanity and admiring her tenacity and learning about more and more about who she is and regretting what he has to do, what he's being asked to do to her. And so I really liked his progression as well. And the way that their relationship they become closer and closer while still having opposing goals. I will say that the ending was a little bit frustrating. We get to the 60% mark, and there's a moment at the end, without getting too spoilery, that for the reader, it's just like it's so obvious that it's not on the up and up, and she is just so blinded, and she just she doesn't question anything that she's doing or being asked to do. And in some ways, because of her history, it makes sense. That was a way where the realisticness or the things that make sense were outweighed by how frustrating it was to see her fall for it. And so that made the ending a little bit annoying. And then the twist at the end with the love interest, I still don't know how I feel about it. I was really hoping that he was someone who had truly come to her side and was truly supporting her without any ulterior motives. And the ending suggests otherwise, but I guess I'm intrigued to see what he's up to. I immediately bought the physical copy and pre-ordered the sequel, so that should tell you like how invested I am in the plot and the story and this journey that this girl has had to undertake. My only point of contention is this is described online as a young adult. And Inez, the main character, is 19. And I think it's probably described as young adult because she is still being treated as a child in many ways. She's being looked at as just a silly little girl and being cast aside and all of that. And I think the storytelling is probably leans more YA. But I just thought it was interesting that she's 19 and in theory has more power than like a 15 or 16-year-old would in the same position. I don't know. I just thought that was a choice that I didn't really quite understand. Other than that, like I said, I was surprised by how much I liked it. And I am really looking forward to the sequel. So all told, I think I'm probably going to rate it 3.5 in my rating, and then probably a 4 like on Goodreads, which is again surprising to me because this is the second YA book I've read in a row that I've really, really liked, and in completely different ways. But I will say, if you're looking for a recommendation, this is not an adventure story. This is not a detective story. This is very, very character driven. Truthfully, there isn't a ton of plot happening, especially in the first 40%. It's all about her fighting against the forces that are trying to prevent her from finding out what happened to her parents. And then at that 40-50% mark, then there's forward movement, but then there's just not really a lot happening. It's really more about what's going on with her, which is again why it was so frustrating that she became so passive. So this isn't really as plot heavy as you might think, especially given those comps that are very plot centric. This is way more character centric and character focused than some of the comps and the descriptions online would suggest. So your mileage may vary. I really liked it, which is interesting because I do prefer plot forward stories. I just liked Inez, and I liked her tenacity and what she had to face and what she ended up accomplishing. That is What the River Knows by Isabel Ibanez. My physical copy should be here tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to having that, and then the sequel coming out, I think, in October or November. So once I finished that, I sent it back to the library because it was a library book at the time, and then I picked up Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater, and I read the first 80 pages or so. It's the first 30%. It's a very short book, but I'm liking it so far. It's just a Regency style romance with a touch of magic, and so far I'm really liking it. I had heard that the main character Dora has suffered something in her childhood that ultimately the result for her mirrors what autism is in the real world. I'm finding that perspective very interesting to see how she moves through the world and how she's engaging with all these expectations of her. I can't say I like Elias very much yet. That is the, I assume, male love interest. But yeah, it's just charming. It's very charming, very cozy. And while Cozy and I don't always get on, I think I'm going to like it just fine here. There's really not much else to say, except that I'm hoping to get it finished today, and we'll mark that off the list. I haven't made much progress in Dreadful, not since we last spoke. It just hasn't been a very good week for physical reading, unfortunately. I am going to do a little bit more reading of it today. I doubt that I'll finish. I've still got like a 250 more pages left. Maybe tomorrow. Probably not, though. I don't know if you guys know this about me, but I'm a huge football fan and I watch every single game. I love it. I've won my family's fantasy league 2 years in a row. I get super into it, and this is the opening week of the season, so I am probably going to be on my couch furiously flipping through games tomorrow from noon until like 10 p.m. So this will be like my first big test of my filming schedule, because I kind of set myself up in the spring when I didn't have this other hobby demanding so much of my time. So I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to balance reading, writing, filming, and sports. So that'll be fun. Really looking forward to it. But I will update you guys later, hopefully after I have finished Half a Soul, and let you know what I think. Hey y'all, just checking in with a quick reading update. Really? Hey y'all, just checking in with a quick reading update. It is now Sunday morning, and last night, as I predicted, I did indeed finish Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater, and this is a really cute book. It is a Regency romance with a touch of magic, and it does that very well. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to give it 3.5 stars, and that's about it. It's just a great palate cleanser. It's pretty short. I did not read the prequel novella that was also included in the ebook. I just didn't feel like I needed to, so it ended up only being like 250 pages. That was enough for me. It was a great palate cleanser from some of the other books that I've been reading because it was just so light and cozy and fun and cute and sweet. So not really much else to say about that. Unfortunately, this will probably be my last update for the day. I have not made any appreciable progress in Dreadful. I'm about 30% through now, and I do not see myself finishing it today. It is the first week of the football season, and I am going to be on my couch furiously flipping through the various games. I will leave you guys with this final update. My next library book I have been going back and forth on, and I think I'm going to do the Jasad Heir next just because of the time factor. I've already renewed my loan once and I don't want to do it again. So I'm going to try and get the Jasad Heir read first and then move on to Senlin Ascends after that. So that is my reading plan for this week, and then also, of course, finish Dreadful sometime this week. It's just not a great time for physical reading right now, apparently. But that is it. Thank you so much for watching. I so appreciate it. If you like my content and want to support the channel, please like and subscribe. In my next video, I am going to be doing a reintroduction of Carrie. When I first started this channel, I talked a little bit about myself as a writer and a reader, but not really about me at all, and that was by design. I am by nature kind of very private and not wanting to reveal too much of myself, and that is still true. But since I've gotten a lot of new subscribers lately, I would just want to do a little reintroduction of myself for anyone who might be curious about who I am as a writer, who I am as a reader, and what I have going on in my life. So I hope you look forward to it, and I will see you then. Bye.